Hello again, MJ traders and investors. It's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth for an MJ Sector review. Today's a review for Tuesday, July 27th. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing as the main topic of the day, Tilray, so ticker symbol TLRY, and all prices will be mentioned in US dollars. We're going to be discussing Tilray because investors are starting to get pretty impatient and frustrated, but rightly so, with the S&P 500 at notching all-time highs and all major indices last week having weekly record closes. And MJ continues to struggle, and it's just an absolute bloodbath. So we're going to be turning our heads to Tilray tomorrow to see whether or not it can lift the sector. But as we normally do, we'll run through some news and events. We'll go over the Tilray chart in detail and what to expect into tomorrow and my thoughts on the chart. And then we'll look at the rest of the Canadian and the US space. But I'll put some timestamps in the description below for your convenience as well. But diving right into it, Tilray to announce fourth quarter and full fiscal 2021 financial results tomorrow, July 28th, pre-market. And they'll also be having a conference call at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, which you can find the details there below. And just before we jump into the chart, I do want to remind everybody that Power Group has a new sponsor, and it is PureVPN. And I highly encourage you to check this out. There's a link in the description below. But in these times of uncertainty, and we're seeing hack after hack after hack, and all these ransomware attacks, people are getting attacked and they're ransoming crypto or some sort of payment. And we want to protect ourselves and our identity online. So this is something I highly recommend, and full disclosure, they are a sponsor, so I highly encourage you to go check that out. And they do have a deal right now, so you can take advantage of that. But moving on to the Tilray chart, so it's a daily bear flag that confirmed today with a new lower low, and we're going to be targeting the 1050, 1060 area on Tilray if this is to see further downside tomorrow. But you can see here we got just above the 0.382 fib, and then we ended up pulling back underneath. And even, just 4 days ago, if you looked at that and said, okay, this is all we're expecting is a daily lower high, it's a potential for a daily bear flag. And if you just entered short when we failed to close above that 0.32 fib, you would have been able to save yourself or you could have saved yourself about 15% of downside, or you could have went short and you could have profited about 15%. So congrats to the bears who did act on that bear flag. And like I said, we could be targeting, based on a negative earnings reaction, we could be targeting the 1050 to $10 area. We're already daily oversold. We were trying to get the daily oversold bounce underway, but the bounce was lackluster at best. And on the weekly chart, we've yet to start the weekly bounce. So the high of last week at 1489 is going to, so if we do have a bullish reaction, we'll see if we can get above 1489 and start the weekly bounce, as we do have a lack of resistance on the weekly all the way up until 2304. So just from these current levels, you're looking at about 80% of upside, a little over 80% of upside. So this is obviously a sector. It's just like crypto. MJ and crypto are the two most highly volatile sectors pretty much in the entire world right now. So high risk, high reward, and seeing a lot of people trying to, they're wondering whether or not they should exit their positions. And as an example, I mentioned on Hexo, I was screaming from the rooftop. I said we were looking for a weekly inverse head and shoulders, and we failed that. And I said if we lose 550, I said I'm going to be extremely bearish, and I'm going to be exiting some in my RSP account, my swing account, and I'm going to look to reload cheaper. So when we lost 550 from current levels, you could have saved yourself about 30% of downside, or you could have went short and profited 30% on the loss of 550. But now people are starting to ask whether or not they should jump ship. Well, I said at 550 rather, USD would have been a good time to look to reload cheaper. Now that we're down 30% from that bear break of 550, now is not really the time, in my opinion, to be jumping ship. But we could be heading to weekly oversold. We're sitting at 38 here on the RSI, so anything below 30. So it's entirely possible that we are heading to weekly oversold. But again, Hexo, huge bounce potential here all the way up to 755. So from the current levels, you're looking at about an 89% bounce just on Hexo. Tilray, from the highs of back in the beginning of the year there in February, we're now down about 81%, right? And then a lot of people today were asking me what's going on with Hexo. I never thought it would go that low. Well, if you look at Tilray, it's down over 81%. Hexo is only down 65%. So CGC, how many percent is it down? It's down 67. So there's eventually going to come a time here where we will reach a bottom. We will run out of sellers. VFF, so down 61%. So just back to the Tilray chart here. So once we do get this weekly bounce underway, maybe we need to hit weekly oversold. We did have key weekly support there at 1341, and we dipped below it. So new low at 1254 is our new key support. So if we lose 1254, then we're likely heading down to that 1060 area of the daily bear flag. But we're still just looking for our monthly higher lows, and we've got 2 days left, just under 3 days left of this monthly candle. So we're going to see whether or not we can close above EMA 12 and the 10-month moving average. That's going to be very telling. So we'll see how this all plays out here in the next couple of days. But obviously, all eyes will be on Tilray earnings tomorrow as the sector just looks for any kind of hope and positivity, because we're anything but bullish at the moment, and we are still in oversold territory here on the daily time frame. So if you're looking for a longer term entry, not financial advice or anything like that, this is for entertainment purposes only, but certainly wouldn't be a bad time, in my opinion, to start scaling into some of these names. And I do believe that Hexo is absolutely undervalued at the moment. I think it was under 800 million market cap at one point. Just for some perspective, Tilray is sitting at about a $6 billion market cap. And if Hexo is due to become #1 LP in terms of recreational sales, well, what do you think is going to happen? Eventually, the market's going to figure that out. And I think there's a high discrepancy in terms of valuation. I think there's, price to earnings also. Just relative to their peers, I think the best bang for your buck right now is Hexo. And keep in mind, if you're looking at the Tilray chart and you're bummed and you bought, on that massive move up and you're now down 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even as much as 80%, you need to keep in mind that it was just in February that we were at $67. And there's tons of people. For everybody looking to sell now, there's people looking to buy. So you have to remind yourself, for every seller, there's a buyer. And the people who sold back here in February at the beginning of the year are looking at these prices and just absolutely salivating and foaming at the mouth, right? So you got to understand the economics of and the psychology behind all of this. And now is, if you're looking at selling, if you're thinking of selling now in this space, well, you got the psychology all wrong. I'm afraid to tell you. So not to say that that I'm perfect or anything like that. It's just we all started at one point or another, and I fell victim to that same mentality and that same psychology and way of thinking. And we just need to get ourselves out of that rut, right? So you need to not look back and say shoulda, coulda, woulda. You just need to not dwell in the past, move on in the future, and take advantage of other opportunities when they present themselves. If you're focusing on the past, you're never going to be aware or ready for the next opportunity once it comes along. So just finishing up here on the Tilray chart, and then we'll look at the rest of the space. But I did want to just compare the amount that we were down. So how much more are we really going to fall, right? After a massive move like that from $4, we were down all the way to $2, $4 on Tilray, right? So we're up, more in a couple weeks. Let's just take a look at the weekly chart. So we went from $441 to $67. So in 140 days, we were up 13x, right? 14x, almost 15x. So when we're up 15x, it's not entirely, it shouldn't be surprising that we drop 80%. And it's happened time again. Look, when we were up to $300, we went all the way from $300 down to $243. You're looking at about a 98% drop, right? And here we are now with a 81% drop. So how much lower are we really going to go? It can always go a lot lower than we think. But personally, if I wasn't already in a bullish position, I'd be looking bullish. And there's a lot more reasons to be bullish right now than bearish, right? You don't want to be entering when something is run 500, 600%, and you don't want to be exiting when something's down 80%, right? So it's just, everybody's situation is different as well. I wanted to point on this and just spend a little bit of time on this because it's important. Not everybody's situation is the same, and not everybody's account is the same. So when I say that I'm selling in my swing account, for example, let's say I sell Tilray and I'm going to look to reload cheaper, and there's a bear flag, right, on the daily time frame. So let's say here you exit your bullish position, or you take a short, right? Maybe you want to short it. Maybe you just want to exit your long term and reload cheaper. Well, it all depends on the type of account that you have. Is it a tax-free savings account? Is it going to incur capital gains, right? So are you in a TFSA in Canada, which does not allow day trading? You should only be doing less than a trade a month, so no more than 10 trades a year, right? So if that's the case, then you're not in the same position. I would exit these positions in my RSP, in my swing account, and then I would look to reload cheaper, right? So everybody's situation is different, not just your situation. Maybe you can't be at the computer all the time, or what have you. Maybe you're just not that experienced and you're a buy and hold kind of person. Or maybe you're just in an account that's going to incur capital gains or does not allow day trading, right? So everybody's situation is different. There's no right or wrong way. You just need to figure out the best way for you and stick to your game plan. Don't let emotions. Now's the time when emotions are running high and people are just making decisions based off emotion, not on logic and data. And that's when you start to get in trouble. And then start to go down the rabbit hole. But we've been really bearish on Tilray for a while. I've been saying that in the channel for a very long time. We could even see a death cross here with the 50 crossing downward through the 200. So if we see a negative reaction tomorrow to earnings, and then we see weakness in the S&P 500, let's say SPY finally starts, monthly consolidation. It's been almost a year since the S&P 500 has pulled back on the monthly chart. Almost a year, right? So what happens when we finally see monthly consolidation and a pullback on the monthly chart? That's not going to be good, right? And then what if earnings are bad tomorrow? We could see this death cross and we could be heading down to $10, maybe even as low as $8 or $7, right? So you need to prepare for that. And if you weren't prepared for that, then you either probably went too heavy, or you just didn't have realistic expectations. And that all comes with experience as well, right? Targets and all these different aspects of trading, right? And it's just hard whenever things are down, 80%. It's hard to stay motivated. And it being the summer and whatnot, people are not around the computer as much and probably just sticking their head in the sand like an ostrich and trying not to look, which might not be a bad strategy right now. In my opinion, if you're down 80%, now's not the time to be selling, in my opinion. So we were extremely bearish for the last few weeks on Tilray. You can see here we had a bear cross of the MACD and stochastic. We're well below the 10-week moving average. So about a month ago, I would have been jumping ship on Tilray. I personally do not own any at the moment, full disclosure. But moving on here, we are topping out at the 50 weekly moving average. But we could see a bull cross here of the 50 and the 100 weekly moving average, which would be obviously welcomed by the bulls. And we do have that lack of resistance on the weekly. So this could be good if we see a bullish reaction, get over that resistance there at 1440, and then $15 psychological. And after that, we have no real resistance up until 20 psychological and the recent higher at 2304. So taking a look at the daily. So again, we're well below all of the moving averages, and we're going to be keeping a close eye on that 50 and the 200 and the potential death cross. A lot of other names, Hexo as well, could see a death cross. CGC already saw its death cross, which it has been leading the market for a very long time, right? And that was all the way back in June, in mid-June. So, we usually see Canopy lead the market in Canada. So if other names haven't seen their death crosses yet, it's entirely possible that the bottom could be near, but maybe we also need to see all these other names set their bottoms as well. And have VFF already had its death cross? SNDL hasn't seen its death cross yet, so we're going to keep an eye on that. And like I said, it's all going to depend and ride on earnings on Tilray into tomorrow. But we're well below the weekly VWAP and the 20 weekly moving average as well. So again, once this weekly bounce gets underway, though, it's going to be massive, but it's a bit of a falling knife right now. So high risk, high reward for those, HR junkies that are out there. So, all right. So moving on to, let's just take a look at the movers and shakers actually on the Canadian side. So we had CanTrust, NSP, PCLO leading the decline on the bull list. We had Love and Huge, the only two. Huge. So FSD Pharma, and there's news out today as well that they were getting their CEO stepping down, terminating their CEO, and they had a new interim CEO. So stock was up about 2% today, but not a whole lot of green there and a sea of red today. In the U.S. side, we had Acreage, KBEV, and MMEN leading the decline on the bull list. We had FLGC, which continues its massive move, and AYR are the only green names. So FLGC, still not sure. I don't, this is a name I don't really follow a whole lot. If you do know what caused this move, let me know in the comments below. But doesn't seem to be anything here that I saw. I'll have to take a look into that here after this video. All right, but taking a look at MSOS, so down 2.37%, lost support at 35.11. So again, the whole sector, right? Not just US, not just Canada, both markets are extremely bearish at the moment. And it could be weekly oversold, right? It's entirely possible. If you are one of the people that are saying, I can't believe, you know, these names went this low, I never would have saw this coming. Well, I got news for you. It can go a lot lower and the market can stay irrational a lot longer than we can stay solvent. So you need to prepare yourself for weekly oversold, right? And we're only sitting at 40 here on MSOS on the weekly, so a lot more downside. I mean, we could head all the way down to about $30 and touch down on weekly oversold. Maybe we even get a flush of $30 and then we see a massive bounce, right? So that's what I could expect for the sector, but realistically, nothing to see here in the MJ space. It's the summer lull. It's great that, you know, Amazon's getting in and lobbying. We need more companies to do that. But again, I don't believe that we're going to see mass euphoria and hype in this sector until crypto and tech take a back seat. So once we start to see, you know, tech finally start to show signs of topping out and crypto topping out, I think we got one more big move higher on crypto and on the broader market. And then after that, it's going to be a question, well, how does MJ react to weakness in the broader market? And then I think MJ could outperform those other sectors into next year. I think 2022 is going to be the year of MJ. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on that. All right, going to wrap up here. So thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth for an MJ Sector review, and we'll see you tomorrow after market close.